Peace and Islam. So, what we call this is geometria, geometry. And in the word geometry, we see earth, geo, and the metrics. So, these earthworks, we're going to look at these today. And we can talk about the Moorish architects, of course. So let's begin. So we see from the ancient world to the modern, geometria was always into Moorish science. You can see the geometria inside these palaces. And then we're going to deal with the Mediterranean world, as they call it, Mediterranean world. We got talking about the whole planet under Moorish dominion. And that will be from the Mediterranean Sea on up would be North Africa. Africa in the middle till you get to South Africa, then down South Africa from there. And let's deal with that. Let's start in Lagos or Lisbon. Not Lagos, Lisbon. We see, look at the different aspects of what's going on here. This north of the Mediterranean, so this included in what Rome claimed, but really is North Africa. Let's look at the Ebro Treaty real quick. Ebro. Iberia. So we see in the Ebro Treaty in 226 BC, and you know they popularized the story. Hadrubal, the fear of Carthage in the Roman Republic, which fixed the river Ebro and Iberia as the boundary between the two powers of Rome and Carthage, which is the only two powers then and now, which really is one power, but through treaty, Rome went after North Africa, which is Europe. Anyway, Carthage would not expand north of the Ebro as long as Rome likewise did not span south of that river, which take us into Iberia Peninsula, and why the Moors went back and take it later, because they ain't supposed to have even come past that river. So you see the Punic Wars. So let's get into these characters. So we see in the manner of the Jews in Lisbon, the Jews of Lisbon. We see you got a servant walking with him. It's like Hakeem and Simi. We can see in this, the dress is of Jewish manner. We can see him, he got the yellow patch on his yellow patchman for the servants. But you can see all of them in a Jewish manner. That's the Moorish Jews of Lisbon. Then you got the Order of Santiago. Which is definitely one of the powers of Rome You got the Islamic, the Muslims who stole there in this Andalusia to them. Then you got what they call Preto, or blacks or Negro or slaves. And see on the chain. Then you got another character, and you got a servant too. So he's a noble. You can tell by his horse and the jewels. You have Moors out there just like how he is today in Marsh America. That's how I know he's the same Moors on both sides. Because some of them, they had, you couldn't really recognize them as none of these three different characters. Four. But they've been out around too. These nobles right here. So you got these different aspects of Moorish in one town, one Lisbon. We're gonna look into how Rome record all this. That's just one of the examples how all this is recorded all around the world, but mostly in Venetia. We're gonna look into Venetia today, where they record a lot of this old world stuff. Before we go there, let's look at the western coast of America, up and down the continent, where world trade been from Alaska all the way down to Peru during the Inca empires. We find duplicate city names in Peru and all the way up to California, especially Baja, California. But anyway, La Quimada. Let's look at La Quimada. You see the stoneworks. Look just like it is in Portugal, Spain, North Africa, North America, all over the Americas. These ancient stoneworks in Canaan, especially ancient Canaan. This style specifically, many styles, but this one got a specific way they place their bricks. They resemble Canaan a lot in Mississippi Valley. I'll read a little bit. The primary source of wealth were rescues, quote unquote. And that's what I've been saying. That's what we've been calling the rescues. Rome trying to treat the Moors to the gospel. I mean, even stuff like Red Crosses too. But you gotta understand, been a lot of stuff at those times that deal with famine in places, and Rome would take it upon itself to go treat people. And they call it rescues. So the wealth were rescues of Moors or blacks. So again, in this book, she fighting with this Roman construct that they place over the planet that make all Moors perpetual slaves, like the treaties say. And historically, the story with the black people, right? So that's what they were talking about. Those Moors they condemn, these Catholics. So they say, who stopped at the slave market if they were not brought back by their families. You see? They only really want people who could pay a bail or a ransom, like a Bill Cosby. So they want it. They want somebody to just, catch one of these Moors. So they say, and especially the gold mines. We're gonna look at that later again. We already know they got the marketable Elmina, the black Roman realm that's in Ghana today. And they got the hidden Elmina that we've been discussing in these videos. That's Minas Gerais. They're gonna make shed some light on the dark. You got Minas Gerais, which means the mind. So Elmina means the mind. And it's allegorical for the true history that they ain't telling you that we gotta go in the bottom of the Vatican and get. See, it's a castle, beach resort, and museum. Same, basically architecture, same thing on the other side that we see all over this area in Brazil, and many forts and many stuff, but they ain't using it as a market. The Ghanaians, they ain't been stupid, they been smart, and they using African Americans as the attraction to tourists. You see the rooftop, right? The architecture is Moorish, Andalusian, Lisbon, like we just finished seeing. You see the church right there. Got the Dutch cemetery. The church, the Latter-day Saints, just to make matters worse. Rome, like I telling you. They got a place named Elmina. I guess they gotta match the other side as much as possible by where the rivers and where the fisheries. We got one river right there. We got a lagoon right there. Let's go to Lisbon. Let's see. So we just see Lisbon way deep into the 15th century, allegedly according to the Spain. 15 late into the 15th century. It's really showing you that a lot of the stuff that we look at history and think about history is in our mind, created by Hollywood propaganda. As you look yourself, you wouldn't know. So name in the plural, there was Mina in the singular, being notable the effort of the Catholic monarchs and their predecessors. Like I try to say, the only Romans and Moors is because they call themselves something else instead of Roman. I still know it as Roman. And Rome, the nobles who still nobles today, who know they Roman, they know that you Moors. They know ain't no. They know like I know. Only one or the other, cause them treaties go back. See, declaring themselves owners of their conquest, they repeatedly granted it in lordship in the hope that the vassal, would expel the Portuguese and other intruders. Talking about America. bearing the blame that could fall on whatever challenged the papal mandate. The Guzmans did not try, and the Herreras did not succeed. And finally, the Catholics were the ones who formed armed forces, starting a war called Recovery, so that's Reconquista, to hide the attempt to plunder, a continuation of those undertaken by the Enriques the Fourth and Third, and Alfonso X himself. So all these the official story of the beginnings of America, because what are those shit called Indian Defense League or something. They were asking Supreme Chief Holiday. I think that's what it was. You're asking him one question, keep going back to that question, and I know he had to skirt around that question because they can't bring up the term more because you can't separate the truth and mix it with the false, so you can't be one. But that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to ask him what evidence that he got of presence of what they call black or Africans in America. So but they use the phrase before 1492. So the fact that they're using that date, showing you that they're going by the Roman understanding of their own shit, historical understanding, already a violation for themselves and their own ancestors. But he had no answer for them on that because they can't get into the 1492 story. Them crackers know that story got everything to do with America. And there's one little passage right here already now destroyed them in that. We talking about America, we talking about rescues of Moors or blacks, which that's what he was looking for. And now he believe Aboriginal people, Chief Holiday and his people, that's what they believe they is, because they got it from a Roman understanding of history. They slaves from Africa. So when you tell the whole truth and start playing with these people, then you put them in their place too in history. Because then you got to get to the Castellanos and the caste system and how Isabel try to wipe out so-called whites, blancos, and mestizos in America. They got to deal with the truth. And they ain't want to deal with that. Too harsh. So we got Atabalibá, the last king of Peru. Utinus Rex Perunarum. We see Venetia and Rome know about the Moorish Americans. They know about Moors everywhere because they dealing with the whole world. It's like a Moor should deal with it as the entire empire. And the way they fight is by propaganda, by getting you out of your mind. So the court was full with Indian nobles dressed in gaily ornamented attire, and attendants on the monarch, and with women of the royal household. And this assembly, it was not difficult to distinguish the person of Atahualpa. Although his dress was similar than that of his attendants, but he wore on his head the crimson borla, or fringe. Tassel, fringe, the crimson borla, the maroon, which surrounding the forehead was like a turban. You know how they got, what your boy name was. You probably can see that later. I'm going to show you that later. Hung down as low as his eyebrow. So he had the tassel hanging low from his turban. This was the well-known badge of Peruvian sovereignty and has been assumed by the monarch only since the defeat of his brother Huascar. And I think we got his Huascar painting, and they're saying, telling us, well, we got a painting of him, but I think we got one as Moors that they ain't calling Huascar. I show that in a future video. We not see it before in another video, but I'm gonna show it again. He was seated on a low stool or cushion somewhat after the Morisco or the Moorish or Turkish fashion, and his nobles and principal officers stood around him with great ceremony, holding the station suited to their rank. Just the fact that they got nobles, ranks, officers, ceremonies, just like Moors and that they are know in Andalusia, give all the game up, because how would they know all that? We notice who they talking about from the Treaty of Tordesillas, where they talking about people taking their kingdoms. And the Indian Defense League can't teach you nothing about kingdoms, nobility, crowns, kings, none of that. So they ain't talking about them people. And that's what they paint as Huascar. What do you see? Ancient Rome under Moorish rule. And you think if Heman's going back and forth, tripping. They were on both sides of the Atlantic. I tell you, I see Enga and plenty Andalusian, early Andalusian names before 1492. And there's some more earthwork. And we go up from Peru, we go to the other parts of the New Kingdom of Granada. And this is what you call Moors in Spain. This is the New Kingdom of Granada. We got the Moorish fisheries and the Moors of Palos, like we looked at in the last series, the Kingdom of Fez. These nobles right here. And then they got the Cordoba in their hand. Cordoba with a feather in them, showing nobility in Morocco. The Sombrero Cordobés. Remember the flamencos. And Zorro, we talked about Zorro before, and where that came at. We move up, we in Ecuador from Peru. But as you can see, we already not run through Moorish Roman Empire. We see the tribe in the Colombia, Ecuador area, the Jaguars. Let me see, Wikipedia. And Paraguay, Colombia, so yeah, this sorry. Jaguar, Colombia. So, you know, it took these Moors name. Salesians, Franciscans. Can't get away from it. Slave labor. Alright. Jaguars and the Pacamoros. And the Moors and Jews in Spain. On this side, Pacamoros means the peace. Peace Moors. That's interesting. They could give me illusions of it in the Spanish page, right? Now look, Moorish American story right in the sill. Moorish American story right in the show, man. The province of Morona. Zamora, we talked about that. They take Zamora. At the same time, they in America, they taking a Zamora, and the history only on one side, where they take Zamora, the Moorish city of Zamora. But on this side, you got them talking about Zamora and Sevilla de Oro. They say Yaguazango and Pacamoros. Quito Casale de la Cultura Ecuatoriana. And don't forget, listen, Ecuador. Well, not Ecuador, let me see. I might be mistaken. Yeah, Ecuador. Quito, Esmeraldas, Guayaquil, and Colombia going up. Jaguar. And like I said, Rome had an idea of all these Moors. We also see the Aztec with these full body suits with different animals. So they call them Afro-Ecuadorians today, of course. But we can see the Spanish, what they call so. Of the important things that we Moroccans ignore, so you know this, a modern day Moroccan citizen who write in this passage. Out that Yassin, father of Abdullah ibn Yassin, founder of the Almoravid state, crossed the Atlantic Ocean, heading to the northern regions of Brazil and Guinea, where he spread Islam. He went there with a group of his followers and founded a large region that belonged to the Almoravid state. That is, this state was not only in North Africa, Al-Andalus, and Portugal, but also in what is what is now northern Brazil and Guinea. And this is demonstrated by the documents held by the Duchess, and that's what we be showing in these videos, right? And that's another thing when you ask that question about my presence here before 1492, or people who look like me, or people we call it black people. I mean, shit. Looking at the evidence I got, other people gotta prove to me where the hell you been at 1492. They don't got none of these records. They waste all these videos and time trying to rebut you. But so when they gonna make their videos telling us about their great historical assets in history? They don't got none. They only go what Rome teach everybody about them. Them fake ass pictures and shit that they put out for over decades, and that's all they got. Cause I ain't seen none of those. Front. So we way before 1492. We dealing with Moore's and that's how y'all seen it now. Gilbert been already over here. They've been here. So we got documents showing those facts. So in fact, to this day, there are cities and towns. They are called Fez, Marrakesh, Tlemcen, and Saleh, etc. I thought that Spanish travelers were the ones who bore those names, like every America, all right? But we didn't know such things. Um, Before Spanish, they've been Romans. See, they existed because of the Muslim presence of about 400 years before the arrival of Christopher Columbus. So that's your 1492. Go back 400 years before that, now you're talking something. Presence here from me on this land, this hemisphere. Then, and in short, relation between Morocco and Andalus with what is now called America existed. According to most experts today, both by the Spaniards and by the Americans, they believe that before Columbus, Islam was widespread throughout the North and South of America, and that the first thing, when he said, and by the Americans, he was widespread throughout the North and South of America. The first thing the conqueror, the Spanish Christians, did was continue his on the Islam of Andalus, destroy it, and completely end the documents that demonstrate any Islam existence on that continent. Despite all the great effort, they could not end everything. There must also be a map of Ahmed al-Uthmani from 1559, which clearly demonstrates the great knowledge of the American continent on the part of the Muslims, which in any case exceeds that of Europeans. In reality, Europeans were very afraid that the Ottoman Empire would occupy America, and they did, and that they would be expelled to them. While in the 16th century, Muslims were still in Spain and oppression and persecution, they did not stop fighting. And while Africans, as I have already mentioned before, through the account of Tor Happen Dalida in 1969, who demonstrated through her trip from the Morocco city of Asafi to the Caribbean that perhaps the Egyptians had been before. Why? For they noticed a great similarity between the civilization of the Aztecs and Egyptian civilization. So we have to, so everything south of this that sea, Mediterranean Sea, is South Egypt, and everything north of it is North Egypt. Right? So we got North America in the north, got Europe in the north, and got Asia Russia, and all that. Southeast Asia, Australia, Africa, and South America. It's spinning up like that from the ancient world, North and South Egypt. Let's forget the red, white, and blue. There's United Asia. Egypt, in a sense. That's all you see. Any treaties like treaty with Britain, treaty with France, treaty with United States, they use the red, white, and blue. They're talking about uniting the Moorish world and the Roman world. See Texas with the Star of the West, and you see the United Egypt, red, white, and blue. And you see it converted into the Texas horn upside down star. So they playing different so-called black magic. We see in Brazil, even in later times, Noble